What's up, folks? What's going on? Welcome to episode number 38 of the Spun Today podcast. I'm your host, Tony Ortiz. Thank you in advance. Thank you very much for listening. Welcome to the Kickoff 2016 Write episode of the podcast. It's another free writing episode, and I hope you guys like it. And if you don't, the problem is definitely with you, so get your situation checked out. Give it up for your boy Leonardo DiCaprio, finally won a fucking Oscar. That's crazy. I thought he's a really dope actor. I thought definitely has a ton of memorable roles, and I don't really like follow that stuff too closely, like awards and like stuff like that. But when I heard that he didn't get an Oscar, which is like, I guess like I think an Oscar is the same as an Academy Award, if I'm not mistaken. But there's another one also, like an Emmy or something like that. Like, big time awards for actors. I think one is for movies and one is for TV shows. I think, or one is like the best one that you can get, and the other is like the second best. I don't know. But they are like the cream of the crop awards that actors can get, and I just assumed that DiCaprio had like a fucking garage full of them. And when he was nominated for The Revenant, which I saw, which was a dope movie, really enjoyed it. You know who had a crazy role in that? Tom Hardy. I thought Tom Hardy's character was so sick, and he plays it so well. And he plays that like style of role like really well, like a disturbed, weird dude or whatever. I was speaking about that with my boy Raul while we were watching it, and I definitely agree with that. But yeah, back to Leo. I was like surprised that he hadn't like received anything, and in the past, and definitely congrats to him, Leonardo DiCaprio. You have an open invitation to come on the Spun Today podcast and tell us about your acting experiences and the road that led you to this Oscar. Excuse me. I'm fucking getting over a cold, so I apologize for those coughs and shit that are probably going to be unavoidable in this episode. What else? Tom Segura has a very funny new stand-up special. It's on Netflix. You guys can check it out. It's called Mostly Stories. This is his second hour special on Netflix, and this last one was really, really funny. I enjoyed it a lot. So I'm with my fiance day before yesterday, and it was funny. I definitely recommend it, so you guys should check that out. What else have I been up to? That new season of Serial started. For those of you that may not remember, or those of you that don't know, the Serial was one of the first season of Serial podcast. It was one of the most popular, if not the most popular podcast ever. I think it had over 11 or 15 million downloads, season one. And it was supposedly it's going to be like adopted for like a movie, and it was optioned for a book, and had a very large commercial following. And Sarah Koenig, the host of it, I guess she's a host, right? The investigative journalist that put the show together, and did a phenomenal job. And it's pretty much a story told week after week, now bi-weekly, which sucks, but week after week, and one story that's told week after week, basically, serially, and hence the name of the show. Season 2 came out. The first season was about a murder that took place in 1999 of a high school kid that was or is serving life in prison for the murder of his ex-girlfriend at the time, and the alleged murder and it's a huge controversy of if he did it, if he didn't do it, and stuff like that. The second season is about a what was he? He was in the army, a soldier that disappeared, pretty much abandoned his post, as we're learning, and he had ulterior motives for it. For doing so, he wanted to like bring attention to the way his platoon was being run by his superiors, but that he was just like a private and nobody's gonna listen to him in that structure, that hierarchy of how the military is broken or set up rather. So his idea was to create something called a dust one, which was to like disappear, and then if it's done in a certain fashion or something like that, different branches of government have to get involved. That's like the protocol. It's not just a certain group of guys from the army go look for him. The army, the navy, the marines, everybody has to get involved in different branches and create a big fuss, basically. Anyway, he wound up becoming a prisoner of war for like over 5 years, and now there's this big controversy of when he was released. If a lot of people think he's a traitor, and people died looking for him, and people were hurt, and at the end of the day he abandoned his post, and he was being brought up on charges of treason and stuff like that. And then his side of the story is he was just attempting to bring to the attention the poor way that his platoon was being ran, etc., etc. And that's pretty much the gist of the story. So you're going like back and forth, and he was a prisoner of war, and I feel it's only been I think like 3 or 4 weeks now. They're switching the format to a bi-weekly format similar to the Spun Today podcast. Maybe they listen to this one and think it's a good idea. But I just think that I don't know, the story feels like it's dragging. It's not as compelling as the first season, which it's tough for a sequel, if you will, to surpass or match the I don't know, energy and emphasis and type of following that an original has, like the first movie or whatever. So it's the same kind of thing in this situation, I think. So expectations were probably a little too high. It's a good story. Sarah Koenig is still doing an amazing job, and the rest of the team, they're over at Serial of telling and disseminating the story. I guess it's just not as sexy as murder porn, as South Park puts it. And I don't know, I'm just not that into this particular story. It's good. I listened to it. But it's not great. Speaking of murder porn, have you guys seen on Netflix also? Netflix is doing amazing. Putting out like really, really great content. Have you guys seen a 10-part, 10-episode documentary? So it's 10 hours of a show called Making a Murderer. That shit was sick. I think I saw all 10 hours with my fiance in like 2.5 days. We saw the whole thing, binge watched it. That option is just amazing. To do so, you get something, kind of like out of the way quick, but you get fucking enough of it que te jaita, you get sick of the shit. But you get all of it that you want when you want it, which is cool. And you have the option that if you want, is the best of both worlds, because you have the option also to string it along week by week if you choose to, and just play one episode a week.
We're here in New York.
What the fuck? Sorry about that, guys. I have something queued up here on my computer. My computer's acting up, and just started playing it out of fucking nowhere, and I apologize for that. It was just a little bit. but you guys will hear what it is when the time comes in a couple minutes. But yeah, back to the show. So it's about a, well, first, spoiler alert, by the way, if you guys haven't seen it, cut this off or skip forward, a few minutes. And I won't spoil anything for you. It's a show about it's a documentary. So it's a true story of a man in Wisconsin that was wrongly convicted of a rape. And he was in prison for 18 years before DNA evidence brought to light that he was wrongly accused and convicted. So he was in jail for 18 years, basically, always maintaining his innocence. And it turns out that it's true. He didn't fucking do it. So they let him out of jail. And he comes from this family small town in Wisconsin. And this family that's like the stigmatized family of the neighborhood. And, the way it was framed in the documentary, his family has that stigma in the neighborhood. And, it's like the kids are, no good, and they're never going to be any good, and blah, blah, blah. And like that type of, they're painted in that way, basically. And so he gets out of prison after 18 years, and he, puts a lawsuit against Manitowoc, I believe is the correct pronunciation, county that wrongfully arrested him and pretty much fucked up his life and locked him up for 18 years. So I think it was going to be a few tens of millions of dollars. And excuse me, guys. Tens of millions of dollars. I don't remember how much exactly it was, but long story short, he then gets arrested for the murder of a woman that he and his nephew allegedly assisted him in committing on his property. And it was pretty much investigated by a couple of the same police officers, which were low-ranking police officers at the time of his first arrest. And now, one's a lieutenant, one's they're higher ranking in the police force. They were involved in it. They made it seem in the documentary that they have it, the county and the people of the county, especially the police precinct, they had it out for this guy and his family. And there's this whole huge controversy of, them planting evidence. Basically, the bones of this woman were found in his remains of the deceased were found on his property, but it's a huge property of many acres. It's like a car junkyard, and they were a few fragments of bone were found on his property. The rest of it was never uncovered. Her car was found at a far away end on his property. She was there earlier in the day, and nobody has seen her since. And a lot of stuff pointing towards this guy. Then they have this confession from the nephew, who's, for lack of a better term, half retarded. This kid is, it's a little 16, 15-year-old kid in high school that he's literally slow, and he's a kid. He's fucking retarded like any little kid. And the cops, and they show you this in the documentary, they pretty much coerce him into confessing to a murder that he, I don't know, to me it doesn't seem like he was involved or he did it. I think that he's just trying to appease the police officers, and they keep asking him questions and saying, "Are you sure that's the truth? Tell me the truth. Come on, tell me. Did you see so and so?" And he's like, "No, I didn't." And then they're like, "Are you sure?" okay, yes, I did. And like just a lot of shit like that, like back to back to back. And then they string along from like 3 hours, they string along a fucking confession from the kid that went from, you know, he just went to school and went home and played video games to, I went to school, I came home, I went to my uncle's next door, and he had a woman tied up to the bed, and we slit her throat, and he made me fuck her, and all types of crazy shit like that. Meanwhile, there was like no blood or DNA evidence inside the crib anywhere, inside the house, and but meanwhile, you know, they slit her throat, so it was like invisible blood, I guess, or some shit. Then his blood was found in her car, which was a whole nother controversy. And they, from the original arrest 18 years ago, they had a vial of his blood in the precinct, and then they looked up the evidence from that. They looked up the blood vial from that time, and there was a syringe that was inserted allegedly, and the blood was tampered with basically, and some of it was extracted, it seemed like, and maybe that's the blood that the cops from the police precinct used to put into her car. And I don't know, it was just like a whole bunch of shit back and forth. And then there's articles after the fact, after the show, since it got so much steam, of the prosecutor that put out statements stating that the documentary was biased, and they didn't mention a lot of other shit, like the fact that Stephen Avery was like calling this girl blocked, and requesting the company that sent her to his property to take pictures of a car that they were selling, requesting her specifically, and that when she got there, he greeted her at the door like he was naked, just wearing a towel, and he was like inappropriate with her and stuff like that, and they left stuff like that out of it. But then the defense attorneys came back in articles stating that that was that evidence wasn't even admissible into the case, so that's why the documentary didn't even show it. And as well as the fact that it wasn't just blood. Then on the other side, it wasn't just blood supposedly that was found in the car. They also found his DNA under the hood of the car, which wasn't spoken about. And again, that I think that was the piece of evidence that was inadmissible for whatever reason. And yeah, you know, both sides argue their sides like they're supposed to. But the sick thing to me is that in a case like this, and you know, I'm not saying the guy's innocent or guilty, who the fuck knows? Maybe he did do it, maybe he didn't. You know, when seeing it, I honestly don't think that he did. I definitely don't think the kid had anything to do with it. He was just fucking got caught up in this. Yo, this kid, he called his mother after the whole thing, after he's arrested, after he confesses to like slicing this lady's throat and stuff like that, and he speaks to her. He's like in jail for a night or two, I think, already at this point. Calls his mother and tells her, you know, they made me say it. I don't know. They got into my head. I don't know why I told him that stuff. I didn't see anything. And then, like, he ends the phone call with telling his mom, do you think I'll be home by Friday? And his mom was like, by Friday? Why? I don't know. What do you mean Friday? He was like, I don't want to miss WrestleMania. It's like, God damn, are you serious? This kid is like so in over his head, man. It's fucking sad. And probably spending the rest of his fucking life in prison. And it's been years already, too. What else? I'm looking at my sticker right now, which says no and no and I keep saying and. So instead, I'm just going to pause silently every time I feel like saying and and. So if you guys hear breaks in the episode, it's me trying to catch myself and giving you guys dead air instead. Like, that's a good trade-off. Anyway, so my, I don't know, thing, I guess, is with this is that the whole, like, underlying, what's the word I'm looking for? Theme or purpose of the legal system in cases like this, or having a jury rather, is to give people, you know, a fair chance, obviously, to or a chance, not necessarily fair, but a chance to speak your side of the story and of what happened, right, through your attorneys and all the ins and outs and theatrics of the legal system. But the point is that the jury, in turn, is supposed to be the impartial jury. Is supposed to, what's the saying? You're innocent until proven guilty, beyond a reasonable doubt, which is like the main thing that I'm holding on to here, which is there's reasonable doubt riddled throughout, whether you're not sure if he did it, you're not sure if he did, but there's absolutely, unequivocally, without a fucking doubt, reasonable doubt sprinkled throughout this entire fucking case. And from the point that just look at that one point, the prosecution says the way she died was that she got her throat slit when she was tied up to a bed, and that slicing of the throat didn't kill her. So the nephew, who was being instructed by the uncle, Steve Avery, choked her to death, and that's how she died. Then they dragged her outside and burned her and chopped her up and whatever, and that's where the bones come to the mix. There was not one speck of not only blood, because if I fucking get a paper cut, I get blood all over the place. Supposedly they slit her fucking throat. There was not an ounce of not only blood anywhere, but any of her DNA anywhere in the house, or any of the fucking kid, the nephew, of his DNA anywhere inside the house. So that in and of itself is reasonable doubt. Like, that's doubt. Like, I doubt that story because none of the stuff that's supposed to be there is there. So that's reasonable doubt. So you can't fucking throw somebody in prison, I think, in light of that. And maybe I'm breaking it down like too black and white, or I'm missing something, but I don't know. To me, that's reasonable doubt. So by the power that the legal system bestows on me by making me an impartial, making me a juror — they can't make me impartial, but making me a juror — my job in that predicament, my purpose is to carry out beyond reasonable doubt verdicts, and verdicts that are not beyond reasonable doubt. And if there's reasonable doubt, one falls in one category, and if there's absolutely no reasonable doubt, it falls in the other category. And I don't know, I just don't think that that's what's being done in certain cases like this one. Anyway, check out the documentary. It's really good. And let me know what you guys think. Anyway, what else? So I saw the President Obama's last what's it called? State of the Union address, which I liked. I thought it was good. I thought I was speaking with my brother, and he was like, "Damn, I miss Obama already." I did too. There were a lot of letdowns with this presidency. I guess just because our hopes were like way too high, bought into way too much of the political, campaign rhetorics, which were impossible to live up to, right? But we're definitely better off, I feel, than we were before, and we're kind of pointed in the right direction, which makes this next election that much more crucial to see if we're just going to take steps back or continue going in that direction. Not that it's necessarily just one direction, but in the general positive direction. 3 of the most important things that I feel he said that I thought were amazing were the fact that he hinted at modernizing the voting system, which would mean, modernizing it, in my opinion, would mean, making voting more accessible to people and bringing it up to standards of the way people are living now, which means moving voting to online. And people feel that there's people have mentioned this in the past, and people feel that there's too much possibility for hacking and scrutiny and stuff like that, but we do everything and anything else online. Everybody does. Rogan says this all the time on his podcast. You know, we do all our banking online, all our fucking investing online, we do our fucking taxes online, we pull our credit online, stuff like that. So you could fucking vote online, because all that other stuff is on a personal level much more sensitive than voting. So he hinted at that, which was amazing. Gerrymandering, which is pretty much the elected officials have the right to redraw their districts, or have influence on the redrawing of their districts, meaning that they can say, all right, these people vote for me that live, you know, within these boundaries. Those people don't vote for me, so you know what? I'm going to redraw the district, draw them out of my district so I can definitely win my district. And the people that don't vote for me, draw them out, and the people that do, draw them in, and stuff like that. It's much more like political maneuvering and like shit like that goes on with that type of process, and it's done not, you know, whenever they want, but every certain amount of years. But it's something that's very self-serving, and they should not have the ability to do so, which I agree with. And that's something else that he hinted at. And most importantly, the best, and I was just like in awe when he did say it. I was like, wait, is he leading up to say this? Is he leading up to say it? And I was like, nah, president won't fucking say it. He spoke about taking money out of politics. Probably the first, I don't know if he's the first president to say it, but he said it. And it's the first president I've ever heard say it. And the influence that politics, the stranglehold that money has on politics is blatant and deliberate. And you guys should definitely check out a book. I've mentioned it before, called Republic Lost by Lawrence Lessig, who was actually a presidential, not contender, but, you know, he threw his hat in the race, and he had some support behind him. But Lawrence Lessig is a professor and wrote an awesome book called Republic Lost, all about taking money out of politics, and gives examples of it, of why it's so bad, and the influence that we don't even notice, but that it definitely has, even on the judicial system, and probably even cases like the one I was speaking about before from the documentary. And the way that lobbyists influence and coerce legislation to be in their favor, and politicians that would support legislation that would make them benefit. A prime example, and this is a I guess quote unquote famous example, but it's definitely not the only one. It's not like an anecdotal, like weird little example. It's like, it's everywhere. It's full blown. It's like 100%. It's a fucking plutocracy. Like, special interests run politics. Like, they're like puppet masters over politicians. Dodd-Frank, which was a set of laws and regulations, rather, put into place after the financial collapse to, you know, rein in the rampant lying and cheating and just downright like theory of Wall Street and everything that led up to the economic collapse, which I've spoken about in the past year. The Dodd-Frank regulations were put into place to rein all that type of shit in. Literally, I think it was said to be like an 80 page document or 85 page document, and 70 or 75 pages of, let's give them the full benefit of the doubt. Let's say it was 85 pages, and 70 of those pages were literally written by Citi, like Citibank. Citi recommended when they have seats at the table for this type of shit, they recommended, these were their recommendations to the politicians of what these regulations should look like, the regulations that are going to ultimately regulate them. City, in like word for fucking word, 70 pages of the 85-page document that made up that Dodd-Frank, some of which was slightly reworded, but all 70 pages are in Dodd-Frank. That's like so despicably disgusting and blatant, and like just amazing how that's possible. Like it literally sounds like unbelievable. Like, no, that has to be bullshit. Look it up, please look it up, and look up the efforts of like wolf-pack.com, which is a big initiative from Jan Gunger and from the Young Turks of getting money out of politics, and Lawrence Lessig's the Citizens Equality Act, which is again another big proponent of this same thought and sentiment of getting money out of politics, because it's, and definitely check out the book. Like I said, The Republic Lost. I'll put a link in the episode notes for you guys for easy access. Republic Lost by Lawrence Lessig. He speaks about very eloquently and very detailed and very digestibly how getting money out of politics would, what that would translate into in today's modern society. It's not just an ethereal type of, dream or thought or something that's impossible and maybe sounds good in theory or on paper, but he gives a lot of real life practical applications of that concept, and you guys should definitely check it out. Now, within that same vein, something that I very quickly wanna bring up and mention about a couple of the candidates that we have, which will most likely be one of these two. Most likely Hillary will be the next president of the United States, and absolutely, definitely the Democratic nominee. But Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton. And something I was thinking about, then I looked it up. And it's not to be funny or sound like a dick or anything like that, but presidents age at a very rapid rate, like 2 to 3 years for a normal human being's fucking the amount that they age, while with all the stress and shit that they have to deal with, it's more than understandable. But Bernie Sanders is going to be fucking 75 years old when he goes into office, and Hillary will be 69. And something to really strongly consider and keep in mind, because it's a very, very realistic chance, unfortunately, that one of these motherfuckers die in office. Like, I know that, I don't know, that sounds kind of douchey, but I'm really not trying to be funny. So I have no idea. I guess I should do some more looking up, but who's on the short list of their possible running mates, because it's very likely that 2, 3, 4 years into their presidency, whoever wins this thing, their vice president is going to be the one running the show, and that's something definitely to consider. Hillary's going to be fucking 69 years old, and Bernie's going to be 75. The oldest president in office elected was, I looked this up before, it was either Reagan or Nixon, one of the two. See if I find it here real quick. And before that, they're all presidents usually like in their early 60s, 50s, late 40s, early 50s, mid 50s. Clinton was like 47, and Obama was in his late 40s also. The Bushes were in their 50s, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Fucking 75 years old is really a lot. Bernie's gonna be like 102, by the end of his first term, and it's fucking that shit's not cool. So I think we definitely have to take a look at who their running mates are. As like strong as like, not as in just in case anything happens, like when Hillary croaks in office, her running mate will be the president of the United States. You know, whether it's 2 years in, 3 years in, whatever the case is. So let me see what that person's about. If I want to vote for Hillary, let me know and be very cognizant of the fact that a vote for Hillary is not in the possible sense like it normally is. You know, Biden might be president or whatever, but everybody knew he wasn't, you know, Obama wasn't going anywhere. But with Hillary or Bernie, it's like most likely something's going to happen to one of you two. So I really have to put stock in who your running mates are. But yeah, that's all I had to say about that. Now, to lighten things up a bit and to reference the clip that I mentioned before that started fucking playing out of nowhere, I have a clip of... It's on YouTube again. The link for it's going to be in the episode notes. If you guys want to check out the full clip, I'm going to play a couple minutes of it because it's fucking hilarious. I heard it on Rogan's podcast that he had recently with Tom Segura, and they played a snippet of it. I wanted to play a little longer version for you guys because it's hilarious. But you guys should definitely watch it. Watch the actual video because it's two guys, one called James Adomian, and the other is Anthony Atamanuik, doing impressions of debate between Trump and Bernie Sanders, and it's fucking hilarious. I'm going to play some of it for you guys right now. Enjoy.
We're here in New York for the intramural 2016 bipartisan debate, Donald Trump versus Bernie Sanders.
My fellow Americans, I am running for president so that in the unlikely event that I am elected to office and there's not an immediate military coup d'etat to take me out of power, this country will engage in an unprecedented revolution politically to take on the billionaire class. Because in a society where the top 1% of the top 10% of the top 1% of the top 10% of the top 1% of the top 10%, for those of you not tracking it, that's 0.00000001 of the top 1%!
This is a great country. This is a great country. This is a fun place. And I promise, I'm killing everyone in the polls. I can guarantee you this. I'm killing everyone in the polls. And if I'm elected president, I will kill everyone. I promise you that. I can promise you that. Here's some facts, okay? The minute I become president, we'll start the Anchor Baby program, where we start bronzing Mexican immigrants and putting them on naval ships so that they're put to use finally. I'm just saying, bronze them and make it a real thing. No, it's no longer an offensive metaphor.
Now, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. Bernie, you look like you're running for president of the Muppet Show. That's fair. That's valid. People have said that I look like I was forcibly held down in a cotton candy machine. That is true. But it happened while it was simultaneously being struck by lightning, giving me a rare superpower where I am simultaneously completely bald and I have more hair than anyone else running for president. Nearly impossible. Together we can...
I have the biggest family. I have the best family. My family, there's not one loser among them, and if there were, we'd drown them in a sack in the Hudson River. And I can tell you this. I'll promise you this right now. There's a reason I named my daughter Ivanka, because I want to fuck her. And I promise you this now. Family, you want to keep family tight? Well, my family's the tightest, specifically my daughter. I bred her to be so tight, and when I marry her, I'm marrying my daughter, is what I'm saying. I'm marrying my daughter.
I firmly believe that the country needs a figurehead like me as president. When I have time with my wife, we go up to Lake Champlain, we put on a Grateful Dead album, and just... we have it sail out off the speakers over the lake, right off the photograph, and we sit in a little sloop together, and we read each other statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics back and forth.
My vacations involve hunting, stray blood diamond diggers. I go to Africa, my whole family, we get elephant rifles and we hunt human beings. And what we do is we reenact the euthanizing of Eleanor Roosevelt, which didn't happen. It didn't happen.
My question for Mr. Trump. When the billionaire class controls 40,000% of all of the money, equaling $10 trillion, while the American working class people have 1/4 of one job for each person.
Exactly, yes.
How can you sleep at night knowing that so many other people haven't got the chance?
That shit is hilarious, guys. You guys have to check it out. Check out the rest of it. The link for it will be in the episode notes, which you guys can, if you click the more button or view full description on iTunes, on your little podcast app there, or on Stitcher, the full episode notes description is there. Or you can check it out on my website at spuntoday.com/podcast/038, which is the number of the episode, and everything will be there as well if you guys want to check it out on the computer or whatever. So, that said, I have 3 free writing pieces of my own that I want to share with you guys. And before I do, 3 pieces from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones. Actually, you know what? Let me do it the other way around this time. I'm going to read my 3 free writing pieces, and then I'm going to read to you guys we got 40 minutes into this thing. I'm going to read for you guys 3 pieces also from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, which is the book that I'm currently reading, like I told you guys before. And I'm going to share that with you guys. 3 different pieces that resonated with me, but I'm going to begin with some of my free writing. Oh man, my computer's acting up so fucking much, guys. I apologize. I have all this stuff like queued up, so I don't have to like pause too much or like pause the recording and shit, or have this dead air and stuff, but shit happens. In the meantime, you can read along with any and all of my free writing at, not all of it, but all that is on the website at spuntoday.com/free writing. And like I mentioned to you guys last week, I self-published my first book, which is currently available in all ebook formats and free if you're part of the Kindle Unlimited subscription. And you can check that out on Amazon. The name of the book is Make Way for You, subtitled Tips for Getting Out of Your Own Way. And it's pretty much a collection of certain pieces of free writing, such as the ones that I'm about to read to you guys right now, that have a through line of motivation and inspiration. And it's pretty much a collection of the shit that I came up with to pretty much motivate myself to get myself to actually write the book that it eventually became. So check that out on Amazon. There's links for that in the episode notes as well. And this episode is coming out on January 14th. The paperback should be available by this Friday or Saturday. So if you guys are interested in the paperback version, definitely check that out. And if you purchase the paperback, just a little tip, you will and should be getting the ebook for free. So for those of you unfamiliar with this portion of the podcast, this is where I pretty much read some old free writing stuff that I've recently posted to the website, and either reflect on it or tell you guys how I feel now. And pretty much just, share it with you guys. So if you want to read along with any of this stuff, go to spuntoday.com/free writing, or again, check that out whenever you would like to. The post that I'm going to read first is entitled, Which Will You Find Today? And it was posted on the website on January 11th, 2016. But was actually written on Thursday, July 11th, 2013, at 2:31 a.m. And it's a pretty small piece. It says, take a stroll through your mind and embrace what you find. And what would that be exactly? A different state at that particular given time. There's peaks and valleys, a spectrum like with anything else, based on something you felt, a hand you were dealt, based on your reaction, your action or inaction, your take on a topic, your spin on a thought, an endless array of thoughts. An endless array of thoughts. An invincible, indestructible drive can share the same origins as the most debilitating fears and insecurities. Which will you find today? So to me, that's all about the power of our minds to find what it's looking for. If you're in a negative, fucked up mood, you can find negative, fucked up shit to latch onto. If you're in a good, positive mood, you're going to find good, positive stuff to latch onto. And the way you think and the way you feel kind of has outward effects on what you do and what you don't do, and how you proceed throughout your day and your weeks and months and years and eventually your life, because it all piles up and adds up. And the most striking line from that, to me, would be the last part, which is an invincible, indestructible drive, which would be the positive end of the spectrum, can share the same origins as the most debilitating fears and insecurities. Which will you find today? Or in other words, as I would say now, which would you choose to find today? And again, that was written on Thursday, July 11th, 2013. The next piece I am going to read is called Be Deserving of a Perfect Moment. And I wrote that on Thursday, August 1st, 2013 at 12:35 a.m. And this was also posted on January 11th, 2016. It's pretty instant. As soon as the pen touches the paper, it seems to burst out. It all begins to flow. Thoughts of nothing become something, or maybe they stay nothing. Nonetheless, they come out almost as if to serve a purpose. Not really going, quote, where they've always belonged, unquote, or returning home, per se, but sort of like they're an important catalyst or precursor to something more. Something not yet in existence, but needing to be. Not in a grandiose type of way, but in a for me type of way. Whatever will be, will be. And whatever it is, will take practice. Practice makes perfect, and perfection requires work. So that when opportunity, preparation, and luck triangulate and cross paths, the moment can be guided and executed the way it deserves to be. Be deserving of a perfect moment. And that, I still agree with that. I still feel the same way in a lot of ways, probably in all those ways, that first off, it's like with writing specifically, every time I write, I do feel like it's serving a purpose. Like I feel that it's either, if it's shit writing, which most of it is, as you guys know, I feel like it's like working out a muscle, and that, the more shit I write, the less shitty it becomes eventually, in a very abstract, take a step back, long-term goal type of view, kind of like lifting weights. It's like a muscle that you're working, and the more you lift, the stronger and stronger you get, and the more defined you become. And I definitely feel that way even when I'm not happy with something that I've written. And then there are times that I am happy with stuff that I've written, like the stuff that you guys can find in my book, which is available at Amazon.com or on my website at spuntoday.com/books. Check it out. And if you're saying, why did you call it books instead of book? Because you only have one book out. That's kind of sort of to, one, I have to change it down the line when more books are on there, but also to light a fire under my ass, because I don't like that imperfection that's there with the fact that it's a plural, but meanwhile there's only one book available and blah blah blah. So I want to get the next project out sooner than later, put it that way. But yeah, back to this. And it's always, always, always about you. It's always going to start with you and end with you. You're born alone, you die alone, and although you're going to care and love and experience many things with many different people in your life, throughout your life, you should always be striving to be the best version of yourself for yourself. And honing your craft and working on it or on your hobby or whatever it is that you're into is something that's yours. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to be as good as you can be and as perfect as you can be with it and within it. And lastly, the last piece that I'm going to read was also posted on January 11th, 2016, and it's called Stick to It. And I wrote this on Tuesday, September 3rd, 2013 at 12:22 a.m. What I want to write about seems to be there, waiting eagerly to be written about. Through the bushes in the distance, it's there. I know it. I don't see it in the literal sense, but I feel it in the unquantifiable sense. It's there, like the anticipation and excitement of a kid on Christmas morning, percolating. I feel like I'm slowly but surely getting through the shrubbery. The obstacles seem to be fading, albeit at a very sluggish pace, step by step. Slow and steady wins the race. And that kind of plays into the whole, like in that last piece, that, let me see how far apart they were written. One was written August 1st, 2013, the other one over a month later, September 3rd, 2013. But kind of sort of like in the same mind state. Well, as far as like the first couple sentences go. In Be Deserving of a Perfect Moment, I write that as soon as the pen touches the paper, it seems to like burst out and it all begins to flow. And in Stick to It, I write how it's kind of like all there, like close to the surface and wanting to come out. And you can't like literally see it, but it's like a feeling that I get. And when the pen touches the paper, like I said in the previous one, it all just begins to flow and comes out. Which is exactly how I feel when I free write most of the time. It's like what they say, like, or how you see Ouija boards are, like on fucking in movies and stuff, and stuff is just like coming out and being written, and you're like, yo, what the fuck? And it literally, it just like flows out of you, and it's like from your subconscious or who knows. But it's a pretty dope feeling, and an empowering feeling at the same time, because like that last piece, the last couple sentences there where it says the obstacles seem to be fading, albeit at a very sluggish pace. Step by step, slow and steady wins the race. So it's having that gumption to stick with it or stick to it, like the title says, and having that foresight to see the long game and stick to it. But yeah, that's it for my stuff, guys. Let me read for you 3 separate pieces to wrap up the show from Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, which is, for those of you that don't know already, a collection of Zen and pre-Zen writings, and is compiled by Paul Reps and Nyogen Senzaki. The pieces I'm going to read are number 63, number 75, and number 76. '63 is titled Killing. Gassan instructed his adherents one day, "Those who speak against killing and who desire to spare the lives of all conscious beings are right. It is good to protect even animals and insects. But what about those persons who kill time? What about those who are destroying wealth and those who destroy political economy? We should not overlook them. Furthermore, what of the one who preaches without enlightenment? He is killing Buddhism." That would be me, guys. I'm killing Buddhism. No, that's pretty dope, though. Not to... We can get overzealous, I guess, like some people, about you know being vegan and a vegetarian and not hunting and not killing and being into this and being into that and picking teams and stuff like that, and kind of sort of like turn the other cheek with other people that are just like lazy pieces of shit, which would be like killing time or destroying wealth. Like those of you that may take part in winning your piece of the $1.5 billion fucking Powerball, and within, what's the statistic? I think within 6 months, 50% of people that win the lottery go broke, and within a year, 77% of them, or some shit like that. Don't be one of those fucking fools. And those who destroy political economy. All about the shit that we were speaking about earlier in the episode, with lobbyists and special interests and stuff like that. That's all killing political economy. What are we doing about that? That kind of stuff. Big picture type of shit. So that was a pretty cool piece. Whatever, that's what I got from it. Number 75, temper. I have a bad temper sometimes, which is not good. A Zen student came to Banki and complained, "Master, I have ungovernable temper. I have an ungovernable temper. How can I cure it?" "You have something very strange," replied Banki. "Let me see what you have." "Just now I cannot show it to you," replied the other. "When can you show it to me?" asked Banki. "It arises unexpectedly," replied the student. "Then," concluded Banki, "it must not be your own true nature. If it were, you could show it to me at any time. When you were born, you did not have it, and your parents did not give it to you. Think that over." Which is true. If you don't have a temper 24/7, it's something that obviously you could control. It's not like a fucking Tourette's tick or something like that. So meditate and try to get rid of that type of stuff in your life. Number 76, last but not least, is the stone mind. Hogan, a Chinese Zen teacher, lived alone in a small temple in the country. One day, 4 traveling monks appeared and asked if they might make a fire in his yard to warm themselves. While they were building the fire, Hogan heard them arguing about subjectivity and objectivity. He joined them and said, "There is a big stone. Do you consider it to be inside or outside your mind?" One of the monks replied, from the Buddhist viewpoint, everything is an objectification of the mind. So I would say that the stone is inside my mind. Your head must feel very heavy, observed Hogan, if you are carrying around a stone like that in your mind. Let go of shit, folks. Don't carry shit with you. And that is it. That is the episode. That is episode number 38 of the Spun Today podcast. Guys, thank you very much for listening to this and all episodes of the Spun Today podcast. I really appreciate it. Check out my book, like I told you guys before, at spuntoday.com/books. The ebook is available on Amazon, and the paperback will also be available on Amazon very soon. Hit me up and let me know what you guys think of this episode and any other episodes at spuntoday@gmail.com if you want to reach out to me via email directly. And you guys know that you can also reach out to me through my website at spuntoday.com/contact. And at the website, you can see a bunch of other stuff, like some more free writing stuff, some short stories that I've written, affiliate links to do all your shopping on Amazon and on iTunes to support the podcast by clicking through my little portals there, which will not cost you anything at all extra. So check that out to support the podcast. You can check out some of my photography, which is also located at spuntoday.com/photography. And if you guys, don't like any of the pictures, feel free to download them for free from there. And if you guys want to actually purchase prints of any of that photography, you can do so through a website called Crated. And the link is Crated, CRATED.com/Spun Today. And all of my photography that's available on my website can also be purchased on, different size posters and picture frames and stuff like that through that link, through that website. Links for that are also in the episode notes. But by far the most important thing that you guys can do to support me in the podcast is rate and review the podcast on iTunes and or Stitcher. And check out the YouTube page, like and comment on there as well. Subscribe. Thank you very much, guys. Again, I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. And follow me on Twitter. Hit me up on Instagram at Spun Today on both. And like the Facebook fan page, facebook.com/Spun Today. As always, substitute the mysticism with hard work and start taking steps in the general direction of your dreams.